Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
The Prime Minister reveals further details on how the Bahamas stayed off that OECD blacklist.
2 men face murder charges here in the Magistrates Court.
Over 50 channels now available on your mobile devices. Find out just what KO Bahamas is up to for the holiday season.
Our news is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, the Bahamas has narrowly avoided being blacklisted by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. That's according to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, who today touted the significance of the move while also taking shots at the former administration. Jasmine Brown was in the House of Assembly and has this report.
During that communication, the Prime Minister also insisted the former administration failed to obtain the necessary tax agreement to stay off the blacklist.
Members should be aware that despite the facts that the previous government signed the convention on bilateral basis in 2014, they nonetheless failed to obtain the required number of bilateral tax exchange agreements with other countries, particularly members of the G20 and European Union.
Dr. Minnis said those agreements were necessary for the Bahamas to be in compliance with OECD commitments. According to Minnis, it was not until 2 years later, in December 2016, that the former administration sought to honor those commitments by sending letters out to 43 countries. He further insisted his government is working to correct missteps of the past. Opposition leader Philip Brave Davis took issue with the Prime Minister's comments and tried to address the House. However, he was quickly shut down by House Speaker Halson Moultrie.
Honourable Member,
Yes.
Are you seeking to?
Mr. Speaker, I seek a leave to respond to the communication.
Honourable Member,
I'm seeking.
you know, we had this situation arose.
No, Mr. Speaker,
with respect to...
I seek leave to respond to the communication for 2 reasons. One, the Prime Minister referred to me.
Hold on, Honourable Member. Hold on, Honourable Member.
But Davis was not having it as the back and forth continued, with Davis insisting he didn't need to be lectured.
I'm not prepared to permit you to respond until I am satisfied that the information is provided to me for me to make a determination. No, I'm not engaging you.
I start off by asking for leave. Because
Honourable Member,
you wish to give me leave, you give me leave.
Leave is denied.
Right.
Meanwhile, the Bahamas has now been invited to sign on to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development's multilateral convention to prevent base erosion and profit shifting. Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest and Financial Services Minister Brent Simonet will sign on in Paris, France. This comes after government passed several pieces of financial services legislation last week to avoid a European Union blacklist. However, Minnis said their work isn't done. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Amid growing concern over the number of illegal migrants successfully making it to our shores, National Security Minister Marvin Dame says government is currently in the process of addressing the issue of protecting our borders. He told our news there's a list of short and long-term goals that once accomplished should help to fix the problem. The issue has become the topic of national discussion, with many questioning how 2 sloops could successfully make it ashore near the Defense Force's Coral Harbor base without being spotted. The Defense Force Commodore addressed the matter on Monday, saying the Defense Force recently resumed patrolling the western portion of New Providence after being told by the former administration to stand down.
Some time ago, it was the eastern and southern shores of New Providence, and now it's clear now that there has been some shift to the southwest. The Defense Force now are using intelligence to determine exactly the route now that they're taking to get to that end of the island.
Government is now working on having the police force, Defense Force, and the Customs Department work together in this fight, a part of a new government task force.
And this multi-agency task force will be focusing on all of the ports, and so not only the smuggling of persons, but also the trafficking in drugs and firearms.
Dames admitted that there are people making lots of money off of smuggling these migrants. The opposition has come out criticizing the government's efforts, saying the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, and the Commodore of the Defense Force ought to be ashamed that a sloop could land less than 5 miles from the Defense Force's base, not once, but twice.
I'm not in the business to play tit for tat. One thing I would say here, that we're a government of solutions, okay? This problem did not just start yesterday.
Police arrested 2 armed robbery suspects just minutes after they committed the alleged crime last night. But despite that success, police are asking members of the public for their help in capturing several other men believed to have committed armed robberies. During a press briefing today, head of the Central Detective Unit, Chief Superintendent Solomon Cash, said some of the wanted men are believed to be members of 4 distinct armed robbery rings.
One being the eastern and the western shores of New Providence. Second being what we refer to as the bump and rob armed robberies. And then thirdly was armed robberies involving residents in the eastern communities. And the fourth was armed robberies that were connected to the schools, the breaking and the robbing of the security officers. Since then, I'm pleased to say that we have disrupted the 4 of these armed robbery groups.
Among the wanted men are 23-year-old Theron Taylor, 25-year-old Jamal Ferguson, 35-year-old Dario Tinker, also known as Geico, 23-year-old Aaron Clark, and 25-year-old Perry Pickering.
We also want to say to the members of the public that there are 1 or 2 of these individuals who are still outstanding. Behind me, you would see several wanted suspects for armed robberies, and you will always also see, in addition to those wanted suspects, some deposit sketches of persons who were described to us as being perpetrators of these crimes.
2 men accused of killing a 27-year-old male were arraigned in the magistrate's court today. Georgia Bain reports.
After police issue a wanted bulletin for 2 men in connection with a murder that took place on December 8th, they both appeared in the magistrate's court today to face murder charges. Appearing in the magistrate's court before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt were 31-year-old Jameric Green, also known as Big Meech of Dorset Alley, and 32-year-old Jamal McSweeney, also known as Chopper. The 2 men are accused of the December 8, 2017 murder of 27-year-old Javin Lyndon Forbes. Last Friday, police were called to Farrington Road in the area of Big Ten convenience store. According to police reports, a man was sitting in a white Honda Accord on Farrington Road off Boyd Road when another vehicle pulled up. A male exited that vehicle armed with a firearm and shot the victim before speeding off. Forbes was pronounced dead on the scene. In court today, Green and McSweeney were not required to enter a plea. They were remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections and will return to court on February 21, 2018 to be served with a voluntary bill of indictment. Reporting for our News, I'm Georgia Bain.
The Prime Minister tabling legislation for the National Honors Regulations 2017. Minnis said the act allows for up to 7 categories of honors. Nominations for the first slate of candidates will be revealed next July.
The laying of these regulations will enable the appointment of the advisory committee to advise both the Prime Minister and Her Excellency the Governor General on individuals who are considered by the committee to be worthy of recommendation and the award of any of the several ranks in the several days, which comprise several orders, which comprise our own Bahamian system of national honors.
The regulations are a part of the National Honors Bill 2016 that was debated and passed by the former Christie administration. In Parliament today, the Prime Minister thanked the former administration for the development and passage of that legislation that seeks to honor those who have made significant contributions to Bahamian society. Minnis also made it clear that the honors will not replace titles bestowed by the Queen.
Any honor conferred upon any citizen of the Bahamas by Her Majesty the Queen shall not be extinguished by reason of this act coming into force or the appointment of such a person to an order.
Still to come on our News, Rev introduces a new service enabling customers to watch their favorite shows on the go. The details are after this break.